So I'd like to take now the slight turn and to talk about the meditation and the mind, right? This is probably this is the most problematic aspect, because people have various ideas and beliefs or assumptions how the meditation is supposed to be. The most common belief is that the mind should be silent. So during the meditation, the mind should go silent, or we have to get rid of the mind. And that's the purpose of the meditation. So it's partially true, and I'll explain it later why is it so. But to start off, the mind or mental body is connected to the sense of I, or I-ness, it's me. And therefore, when viewed through it, through that sense of I, we experience a subjective perspective based on thoughts, self-perception through ideas and definitions. So that's why mental activity is always present. Yet when we are working, doing something on a daily basis, like I mentioned before, our attention, our awareness is directed, focused outwards, outside. So that's why we're not noticing the activity of the mind. We don't really know actually our mind until we get to the meditation part. And that's where we simply begin to notice our mind through the meditation, in the meditation, during the meditation. So again, scientifically explained, normally the thalamus filters. Thalamus is the part of the brain which is in the middle of the brain. So the thalamus filters out the internal signals so you can focus on the external world. This is how we function, right, on the daily basis. In the meditation, it reduces the filtering. So that's why we are receiving those internal images, we're having those memories, we're having those spontaneous visuals, and they're becoming stronger. And that's why the voice of the mind becomes stronger as well. So that's why our mind looks so active, basically maybe even unusually active, just because finally we paid attention to it. So in other words, only so when we are closing our eyes, this attention, this focus shifts. So what comes to the mind, I'd say in spirituality or on the practice, on the spiritual practice, and there are like two main approaches, I'd say. So one is that the meditation not need to be controlled or supervised in terms of, it's a practice of complete openness. It's a practice of complete trust of the process and receptivity of the mind. So sometimes referred to as a pure mind. So basically that's the end state where the unfoldment of the actions will finalize themselves. And this is where we would come to the core or to the pure mind state. So basically, the practitioner or aspirant is constantly moving to the point beyond the concepts and beyond the ideas, beyond the thoughts. The mind doesn't need to be silenced. So the noise will play out automatically and the mind will become less active, and until we go silent by itself, So that means that it will play out or play those noises less and less, or we will notice those noises less and less. This is something like if you would go to the next room and you would hear the TV sound playing in another room, and you are able to hear it or notice it when you bring your focus to it. But still, it will become playing somewhere in the background. And there's another aspect. So through specific, very clear, structured methods and training, the mind becomes silent. And that practice, for instance, is in Zen Buddhism, right? So this is most direct part focus on silent mind. So the practice is the sitting and the meditation, just sitting and observing the mind and letting thoughts pass without any engagement. So basically, the goal is to reach that no mind state, or mushin. So probably you saw the sign, the symbol of mushin, like the O letter. Then another practice of that silent mind or no mind is the vipassana. Probably you are familiar with this practice. So it's insight meditation. So basically, this practice is also observing sensations and thoughts with equanimity. So that means that you're not getting involved into anything what you see. And this observation happens until the mind becomes very calm and silent. In Advaita Vedanta practice or non-duality, so teaching, or it's leading to the realizing the silent witness, which is the Turiya state of Turiya state of consciousness. So the Turiya means this behind all the thoughts. So it's like the background where all the experiences are perceived and seen and manifesting themselves. And it's attained through the self-inquiry, silent meditation, and contemplation. So there's another teaching which now starts to embody both, let's say, so going to the goal or trying to reach the goal of this perfect beingness, as well as, or thoughtless awareness, but as well as, not shying away from the mind, but really accepting and bring it in. So it's in the Dzogchen and Mahamudra tradition, this Tibetan Buddhism tradition. So, and it's considered as more advanced practices. So they are focused on the nature of the mind, right? Or this recognizing the silent and luminous awareness, or the pure mind, right? Sometimes it's called the great perfection. And also we can find that in the Christianity as well. Is the Christianity is called this contemplative prayer. It's the silent prayer practices. And it aims for prayer of quiet, or the union with God in mental silence. As well as there's in Tao tradition, or there are a couple of more Zen influent practices, which path is towards the effortless action, or the practice of forgetting the mind. So as you can see, you can tell that all those practices in the path, they're actually and basically leading to this clarity, but eventually it's achievable just because this outer layers or the upper layers of the mind and of the actions are playing out. And that's another proof that the energy has the beginning and has the end. It's just on the daily basis, we're so much used to, keep our mind rolling, keep our mind active and busy, that it has no space where to sit down and self-reflect, or just really, we have no time. We're not giving ourselves the time to really play through the day, and so on, so on. So that's why mind has a lot to tell us. And it seems like the meditation becomes the only place where our mind has finally the opportunity to do that. Also, another very important aspect, especially at the beginning, is the breathing, or the breath. Since, and you know yourself best in this as well. So, based on your own practice, that the breath and that the breathing is really facilitates in the meditation, because it helps our body, our system to calm down and start to rest. So when we're forcing the breath, right, or when we are like running on the daily basis, again, I'm repeating myself, it's a word of the day, on the daily basis. So we don't breathe deep. We would breathe from the top of our lungs. So that's why there is no calming effect of our breath, basically. And during the meditation, this is where we're able to achieve the deep breath, and that what actually happens from the diaphragm, right? From our middle of our body, because this is where the air we're breathing out, it really starts to supply the oxygen truly to our organs, as well as it really helps the system to calm down, because what it does, it helps the system to open up. So the calming happens when the relaxation happens, and the relaxation happens through the opening of the system. And also breath supplies and provides that space and sends this space to the points of the contractions. So that's how any contractions being usually this is what we feel in our body, in our physical body. So when we're breathing into some of the contractions, so it helps to release the tension, and this is where the system starts to finally rest.